and welcome first-time viewers. If you're new here, definitely welcome. So you can tell by the title, giving you some travel tips. If you plan on going to Japan in the near future or just at any time, a lot of these tips are pretty universal, where some of the information might change depending on when you go, but most of this, you can kind of use it anytime. This actually, the genesis of this video spawned from poll I put up on the YouTube site asking you guys what kind of content you want to see when I head to Japan in a few months. And there was one comment from Fabu Brick. He said, maybe also some travel tips for those of us who have never been but would like to go. And you know what? That got me thinking. I was like, yeah, I can do that before I even go, because I've been 3 times now. And then, so I was like, yeah, I'll do a quick video and just give you some tips and like talk about Tokyo, Yokohama, a little bit about Kyoto, Kamakura, places I've been in Japan. And then I started writing the script. And the script just for the before you go and getting to the airport got really long. So I was like, all right, this is now going to be a series. So this is the first part in I'll call it my Japanese travel series. I don't know. I'll probably think of a catchy name for it by the time I'm done editing this. But yeah, I did want to do a kind of like tips and tricks kind of video for those of you who have never been before, and maybe you've been before, but there were things you forgot to do or maybe didn't know you could do. So definitely just trying to help everybody out for when you make that travel to Japan. And I can't recommend going there enough. I love going there. Like I said, this is coming up going to be my 4th trip to Japan. I'm going to see some places I've never been before, like Osaka, Nara, Kobe. So I'm super excited about that. But anyways, here we go. Let's get started on the video. So some before you go tips, like you've already booked your flight and everything like that, and now you're ready to go. But before you go, there are some things you need to do. First thing, make sure you have a passport. This does kind of sound common sense, but I think a lot of younger people forget about this aspect. And for those of us who already have a passport, make sure it hasn't expired yet. When I was planning this trip, I kind of got a panic attack. Wait a second, I haven't checked my passport. And I was like, thumbing through, I was like, all right, cool. I've got a few years before it expires. I got 3 years exactly before it expires. So it is up to date. It is not expired, thankfully. But I could see that being, because they last for so long, I can see that being a thing where someone, might not realize their passport is about to expire or may expire before their trip. So you definitely want to get that done in enough time. Wait times vary depending on how busy the passport office is. So I would check that way ahead of time before you even really start making any plans. Just make sure you have a passport and it's up to date. Next thing I kind of want to talk about is check bags. Most international flights will allow you up to 2 check bags. Again, check with your airline before packing all your bags and things like that. But every time I've gone, it's been 2 check bags. On this trip, it is also 2 check bags. But you never know with the economy and inflation. The airports might be like, we'll give you 1 free bag, but we're going to charge you for the next one. So definitely check with your airline when booking. It usually says when you're booking your flight how many check bags you're allowed. So most international flights to Japan allow for 2. My recommendation, even if you only need the 1 check bag, I would definitely take 2. Like, get yourself a big suitcase and pack a smaller suitcase inside of it, because you'll probably bring back souvenirs for friends and for your family and for yourself. So you have that second bag. If you take it with you, it will save you from having to go to a secondhand store like a Hard Off or Hard Off or Home Off to try to buy, another suitcase to carry all your goodies home with you. But yeah, you'll be amazed by how much stuff you'll see there that you want to check out and buy. So I would definitely recommend packing 2 bags to take to Japan. I've done that every time, even when I didn't need the second bag. And it worked out for me on the last trip because we had the toddler who didn't need bags at all, but he got 2 bags. So we had 2 extra bags for souvenirs and stuff like that for everybody. Another good tip for when you are going to Japan, I would say try to acclimate yourself to the time change. Me, I'm on the East Coast, so depending on the time of the year, Japan is usually 12 to 13 hours ahead of me, and I've never successfully been able to do this. I've never been able to acclimate myself before I go, but I know a lot of people swear by it. So I would just say before you leave, 24 to 48 hours before your flight leaves, I would try to, change your sleep schedule. Like stay up through the night and sleep during the day. If it allows for it. If you have a job and everything like that, you might not be able to do that. But I would definitely try to do that just so when you get there, you're not jet lagged. Because I can say, first couple days there, if you're not acclimated, you are going to be waking up at like 3 in the morning and raring to go. Like not even like 3 in the morning at your time. You're just like, oh, I can't believe I couldn't sleep. No, you're just boom, you're up because you're thinking it's after, your body's thinking it's the afternoon. And there have been lots of time I've had to kill in the wee morning hours in Japan because most stuff like diners, like places you'd want to go and see, don't open up till like 10 or 11 a.m. So your options at like 2, 3 in the morning are like convenience stores and McDonald's. That's about it for any place that's open if you want to get out of your hotel and just kind of walk around, kind of thing like that. So definitely you want to try to acclimate yourself to the time change beforehand, or you can just be like me and just go on massive early morning adventures and just walk around, get your steps in. Got to get your Fitbit steps in, kind of thing like that. One thing I would definitely say that you don't need to stress about before leaving is don't worry about getting yen from your bank or really in your home country for the most part. I can speak for the U.S. I can't really speak if you're coming from Australia, Europe, things like that, or even Canada. Well, I can kind of speak for Canada because I have done the exchange in Canada, and the exchange rate from U.S. dollars to yen was not great in Canada. I did that on my first trip because I didn't see a video like this. And I will get to exchanging your money and getting yen when you're in the country later on in the video. But this is just like a before you go part of the section. Next thing, where are you going to stay? Hotel, Airbnb? Which one? I have done both, and there are kind of pros and cons to both. The first trip, we did an Airbnb because it was way cheaper to do an Airbnb. So it was pretty cool. We on our first leg of our trip, we were staying in this apartment just outside Shibuya and had a nice little market, nice little diner, a couple of restaurants and bars right by us. So nice little scenic thing. Plus we were in an apartment space, which they're not that big in Tokyo, but it was bigger than a lot of a lot of hotels we could have booked. So doing that, it was kind of nice because we had our own space. We had 2 bedrooms, we had a fridge, we had everything we needed. So one thing we did do, because we had that little market right across the street, we would go, get food, fill up the fridge, and not have to go out every night because we were there for about 2 weeks. So not having to go eat lunch and dinner and breakfast every day for 2 weeks definitely will save you some money. So that's definitely a pro of an Airbnb plus larger space, things like that. Now, a con to it is sometimes because you're in an apartment and you're staying at someone else's place, you might be a little further out from the city, like the city centers, like you would be with a hotel. So you might have to catch an extra train. There might be a little extra walking, which if you're up at 2 a.m., you probably won't mind because you'll get to start your day sooner. So there is that to think of. Hotel, staying in a hotel. One thing about a lot of the hotels in Tokyo, I should say, because every other place I did an Airbnb, Tokyo is the only place I've done a hotel. I did a hotel in Narita too. But the thing about the hotels are they're not really Western style. The hotel we stayed in Tokyo was actually right next to the Square Enix building, which was kind of cool. I'll probably have a picture somewhere in this video of that, probably right now. It was tiny. Like it was supposed to accommodate 4 adults, and it did kind of. Hopefully I have the picture still. I'll put it in this video of me next to the bathroom door, and I'm only 6'2", so it's not like I'm a giant, but it was like here, like up to me. So I'll try to have that picture in this video if I still have it. But they were tiny. Like it was like 4 beds. They were really close together and things like that. So that's something you have to be aware of when you're booking a hotel in Tokyo. They do have Western style hotels, but you definitely pay a premium price for those. You'll pay a lot more for a Western style hotel than you will for a like traditional Japanese style hotel. Now, when I did stay in Narita, it was a Western style hotel. It was less money though because it was right by the airport. We literally, because we were flying home from Narita, we just booked 2 nights in Narita just to see Narita for one day and then sleep and just hop a quick shuttle over to, or subway ride over to the airport, so we wouldn't have to worry about trying to get to Narita from Tokyo, because it's about almost an hour from Tokyo to Narita. So staying in Narita to fly out was a lot easier. But that was a Western style hotel, very big comfy beds, very comfy room. So those are kind of the pros and cons. And obviously, as I mentioned in the cons for the Airbnb, the pro for the hotel is, generally speaking, the hotel will probably be right in the middle of the city, so you'll be right by a bunch of stuff you probably want to do in Japan. So kind of pros and cons. I would say weigh the prices. You're definitely going to get more room for your dollar with the Airbnb, but you might stay a little further out from all the cool tourist stuff you might want to do in the city. Next up, I would say try to reserve as much transportation as you can before you go. There is the JR, or the there's the JR, the Japan Rail Pass you can reserve. It has gone up in price in recent years. A 7-day pass will run you $331 right now. But it does allow for you to ride the Shinkansen. So if you're going for more than just like, if you're going to other places other than Tokyo, like if you want to go to Tokyo to Osaka or to the northern part, other places like that, it can definitely be worth it for what you would pay for just 1 or 2 trips on the Shinkansen, and it is good at all the JR line subways. So there's a couple different lines in Japan, especially in Tokyo. The green line is the JR line. That's where your JR pass will work. Unfortunately, most of the time you'll probably be taking trains that aren't JR lines. My first trip, we got the pass, and most of the time when we were doing stuff inside of Tokyo, we rarely actually took a JR train, because the JR line kind of circles Tokyo. It hits like Shibuya, Shinjuku, some of the main hubs, but all the inner ones that you'll see when you look at a rail map, those are not JR lines, so you'll have to pay out of pocket with that. And for those, now mostly they do it all digital now on your phone, but you can get a rail card. This is a Passmo card. There's Passmo and Suica. You can get them on your phone now, at least with Apple. I got to check on Android. I have an Android, and on our last trip last year, I should say in 2023, because we're now in 2025, on our 2023 trip, I could not do it from an Android phone. I had to, use my Rail Pass, but I'm sure it's updated now, and I'll have a link in the description if it is updated. But those are the Passmo and Suica cards, and you can also use those cards. You can put money on them. You can use those at a lot of convenience stores too, to just buy food and drink. You can just boom like that. And same with if you have it on your phone, you can just you basically use your Apple Pay, Google Pay kind of thing like that with the Suica and the Passmo cards. Those are definitely great to have, and you'll need those for non-JR line trains when you're in and about Tokyo. Now, leaving the airport, I definitely, I'm going to cover that more in detail later on in the video, but you're going to want to have a plan before you go on leaving the airport, whether you want to book a car, rental car, transportation from the airport ahead of time, or if you're just going to take the subway when you get there, something to think about. Also, you're going to want to reserve either a SIM card, a pocket Wi-Fi, or an eSIM before you go, because you're going to want to use your phone, obviously. There's a lot of Wi-Fi throughout Tokyo, but not in every place. So if you want to have actual access to your phone to be able to text or send messages, post photos, things like that, you're definitely going to want an eSIM, a SIM, or a pocket Wi-Fi. Kind of a bonus point for Airbnbs. The Airbnbs that Keenan and I stayed at on our first trip, 2 of the 3 actually had pocket Wi-Fis for us to use in the Airbnb, so we didn't even have to worry about having Wi-Fi or access to our phones on the go, because that was provided for us. But also, at the time, we had Sprint, and that was owned by SoftBank. So SoftBank being a Japanese company, we could freely use our phones throughout Japan too, which was great. Sadly, no more. But Sprint got bought by T-Mobile, no longer owned by SoftBank, so don't have that added benefit of being a Sprint customer in Japan. But yeah, you're going to want to figure all that kind of stuff out before you go, how you're going to use your phone, transportation, rail passes, things like that. Next up, I would say you're going to want to create a to-do list, like in a Google Doc, some sort of check sheet. Because you'll think like, oh no, I'm going to remember everything I want to do when I get to Japan. You are not. If you're anything like me and you're super excited to go, you're going to forget just about everything you had planned. There'll be a couple things, like big things, that will stick out in your head. Oh, I need to do the Tokyo Skytree. I need to, go see the Imperial Palace. Those things you'll remember. But some of the smaller, like bars or restaurants, places you want to check out, you might forget about that when you get there. So creating a nice little Google Doc that you can pull up on your phone while you're there. Just like, oh yeah, I want to do this. And the way I always do it is I put the different prefectures, different areas of Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, the different places within the city of where I want to go. So if I wanted to do like Super Potato, for instance, I had a little like Akihabara thing. I want to go to Super Potato in Akihabara. I want to go to Traders in Akihabara. So that would be my recommendation to use. Like also break it down by the different districts if you can, if you know where they are. Just break it down by the different districts. That way you can just check it off as you go. So you don't forget to go places, because each trip I've been on, except for maybe the last one, I think I did hit up everything I wanted to do on the last trip. But the previous two trips, they're like on the flight back, I was like, oh man, I meant to go to this place, or I wanted to go to this place, and I totally forgot to. So having to and I even had checklists for that, and I still forgot to go to them. So that's why I definitely say make a checklist just of things that you want to do. And while we're talking about checklists, I would make a checklist of souvenirs you want to buy for yourself and for others, because again, it'll make kind of like the hunting easier for it. Like you're like, oh yeah, I want to get this for my mom. Oh, got it, check. Oh, I wanted to go to Hard Off and find Super Mario Brothers for the N64 Japanese cart. Boom, check, got it. Kind of thing like that. Because again, you might see the things and forget that you wanted them, or something of that effect, or you might even forget to look for them because it might be like a specific game or figure or what have you that you wanted to find in Japan, and that's the only time you're going to go to a game store, or the only time you're going to go to some place that sells like SH Figuarts figures, and you might forget. So I would say if there is stuff you want to look for in Japan, be it figures, be it games, be it just any kind of souvenir you can bring back on the plane, I would say, create a souvenir list for you and for anybody you want to buy for. That way you, again, don't forget, because you're going to be very overwhelmed, but in a good way when you go to Japan, because there's going to be so much to see, do, drink, eat, and etc. that you will forget some of the things you set out to check out when you go there. So having a checklist for stuff that you want to buy is definitely a must, because again, there were things that I wanted to get on my first trip. I didn't create a checklist. Well, I did create a checklist, but I forgot to check it. That I wanted to get on my first trip. I didn't get them, and I knew they would be like dirt cheap. And then by the time I got to my second trip, I did remember them, but they had gone up in price a little bit. So having that little checklist will definitely help you out. All right. Now this is kind of something you definitely want to have if you don't already have one. It's a good, comfy pair of walking shoes, because you will be doing a lot of walking in Japan, whether it's in a particular district that you went to, like if I mentioned Akihabara before, but Shinjuku, Shibuya, Ginza, all of them, like you'll bus, subway, maybe taxi. Wouldn't recommend a taxi. Talk about that later. To these places, but once you're there, there's just going to be a ton of walking, because there's going to be a ton of stuff you want to see and do while you're there. So naturally, you are going to, need some comfy shoes so that walking through there is not a literal pain in the foot. Now, before you go, you're going to probably want to download a couple apps just to make your life easier. And I'll have links for pretty much anything I mentioned, whether it's things you need to buy, links for apps, things like that. I will have down in the description below just to help you out, so you can just kind of one-stop shop and be like, boom, 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 click the links, so you know what to get before you to go. So I would definitely have something like Google Translate downloaded to your phone. I use it a lot when I'm in Japan, not just to like understand people speaking to me, but you can use the camera and it'll translate a lot of the kanji for you. There are plenty of restaurants that will have English menus, or at least menus with pictures on it, so you can just kind of point to what you want. But sometimes you'll find yourself in a place where there is no English translation, and there might not be anybody who speaks English, or at least well enough for you to understand. Because after all, you are traveling to a foreign country whose first language is not English. So definitely be respectful of that, and don't lose patience because no one understands you. Because remember, you're a visitor there. But yeah, Google Translate has helped me out a lot when it's come to just reading and also translating. Like I can say like something into the Google Translate, it will either speak it or like spell it out for them. They're like, oh, okay, and they speak back, and vice versa, kind of thing like that. But on the aspect of translation, I have tried to learn Japanese. I know a little, but I'm not nowhere near fluent in Japanese. But one thing I have discovered in my trips to Japan, if you just try, like, and it could just be basic phrases like, "Where's the bathroom?" or "I'd like a beer," or hello, konnichiwa, ohayo gozaimasu, arigato, things like that. If you just try, and it's just the most basic phrases, it gets you a long way, because the Japanese people, because going from English to Japanese is difficult, and going from Japanese to English is also difficult. So if you just try a little bit, they definitely appreciate it. They appreciate that you're trying to learn their language, or at least speak it to them, because they'll try with you with English. So it goes a long way. And I've noticed when I attempt at my bad Japanese, I definitely get smiles. Sometimes laughter because I've horribly pronounced something, but never like making fun of me laughter, just kind of silly, uncomfortable laughter, I guess. So at least making an attempt, like downloading something like Duolingo or another like kind of like translation app, and just trying to learn some basic phrases before you go, like sumimasen, I'm sorry, excuse me, kind of sumimasen. Definitely like remember that word. If you don't remember anything else from this video, sumimasen, excuse me, I'm sorry, kind of thing like that, because you'll be saying it a lot, because it'll be crowded and you'll be like squeezing by you like sumimasen, sumimasen. Or if you make a faux pas, paying for something, things like that, sumimasen, sumimasen. Definitely definitely a good word to know, because it kind of means excuse me, it means I'm sorry, things like that, and it will definitely get you out of sticky spots, kind of thing like that. So anything, just sumimasen, learn that one. But yeah, just try to learn basic phrases, because again, it will go a long way to help you. Also, have a navigation app. There's a couple. Google Maps for one. That's what I mostly use when I'm there. It's mostly use the walking app on it, but it does help with transit. Generally speaking, it will tell you what platform to be on, when the train leaves, and I don't know how accurate these trains are coming from the American transit system, but man, if it says it's coming at 3:55, it is there, 3:55 on the dot. So it tells you when the train leaves, and if you miss it, just refresh, and I'll tell you when the next train's coming. Generally speaking, 5 to 15 minutes, depending on time of day and how busy it is, kind of thing. But yeah, Google Maps definitely helps get you around town, things like that. Plus, you can use the camera one where it will use real-time AR, point you in the right direction. That, again, helps. And Apple Maps, I found, is also pretty good with the trains and walking, things like that. Both work pretty well. And two new apps I've been made aware of: Japan Travel by Navitime and Japan Transit Planner by Noriki Anae. Again, I will have links to all of these in the description below. I have not used these ones, but I have read and seen in other videos people recommend them, so I assume they work well. I can only speak from experience with Google Maps and Apple Maps. But yeah, I'll have links to all those apps below so you can download them to your phone and be on your way and travel about in style. Because, like I said, the rail map can be very intimidating, but if you use any of these apps, it's actually not. In fact, by the end of my first trip, I would say less than a week into my first trip, Keenan and I were traveling the subway system like pros. We had no problem knowing where to go. Like, we'd use Google Maps to get to the station if we didn't know where the station was, but once we got to the station, we knew what platform we need to be on and where to catch our train. So it takes a minute to get used to, but using these apps, you'll start to get used to it, and then you'll only need the apps to get to the station, and then from there you'll be like, I know what platform. I'm a pro. I know where to be, kind of thing like that. Plus, there's all kinds of walkway signs. It's really easy. It's not nearly as intimidating as that map looks. So now we come to things you might want to buy before you go. I mentioned above, comfy shoes. You want something to walk in. Skechers are really nice. I know that's an old man talk, but Nike Air Maxes are also really good to use to walk. I would definitely go comfort over fashion when it comes to being in Tokyo, especially Tokyo, but if you're going to be in rural places too, where you'll be doing a lot of walking, having comfortable shoes is a definite must. But other things that you might want to take on your travel, I recommend, gentlemen, ladies, you can get it too. I don't know but you might carry a bag or something like that. But I would say get a passport wallet. This one is RFID certified. You don't necessarily need one of those per se, but I got one anyways because it wasn't any extra, so I was like added protection. But I always put my credit cards in here. I'll put my passport right in here and have it folded, and then I'll slide cash in there, kind of thing like that, just so I have it all, so I don't have to take my actual wallet with me. I just have this, so I don't have to worry about moving things around. And I don't take my ID with me because your passport is your ID, so you don't need to take that with you. If you're going to rent a car, though, I've never done that in Japan, so you might want to take your driver's license from your home country just to show you are a licensed driver. Again, I have no experience with doing that, and honestly, I don't ever intend to rent a car in Japan because when I'm in those cities, it's so intimidating trying to drive in that traffic. I was like, no, sir, I will take the train because it's just easier too. But yeah, I can just keep everything in here that I need, cash, cards, my Passmo cards, everything, and it just makes life easier, and I keep it all organized, and it's really flat, so I can slide it in my pocket without any intrusion. Portable charger. Definitely want to have this because you're going to be out and about pretty much all day probably, so having at least one portable charger to just keep your phone charged and any other electronic devices you have with you, keep them charged so you have use for them all day. I know a lot of people are going to make fun of me, but fanny packs are nice. Like book bags coming up in a second, but if I don't want to carry a big bag with me, like if I know I'm just going to like bars and restaurants that day, I don't want to carry a backpack with me if I know I'm not doing any shopping because that's just one other big bulky thing to have. So having a fanny pack to carry cash, my wallet, my charger, my phone, everything, and so I don't have these bulging pockets. It's nice. And I have this cool little WWE title belt one that I got with my WWE Slam crate way back in the day when I had a subscription. So any kind of fanny pack doesn't have to be as big as this one though. It is now cool to wear them like this, so I can walk around like I'm Cody Rhodes, WWE champion all the time. So those are fun. Did I have I don't have my book bag out. I meant to have my book bag out to show you, but a nice comfy book bag that's pretty spacious. I've got a really nice big laptop bag that I use on these trips because I can take my portable PC, my Switch and stuff in there, and I know those are going to be secure, but also when I'm out and about, if I know I'm doing shopping like in Akihabara, Shibuya, Shinjuku, if I'm doing game hunt and stuff like that, I've got plenty of room just to throw my new wares in there and carry them around, so I'm not carrying shopping bags like this walking all throughout the city. It just makes life so much easier. So yeah, book bag, fanny pack, I would definitely recommend having both of those on your trip. Book bag for when you know you're going to be carrying a lot of stuff. Fanny pack when you're just going to be carrying like your wallet, phone, portable charger, and you might get some small trinkets here and there. Just makes life easier. Also, fanny pack makes it a lot easier with all the change you're going to be carrying around because when you do any kind of cash shopping, there will be a ton of change for you because up to 500 yen, there might be 1,000 yen coin. I'm trying to remember, but I would have like a lot of 100 and 500 yen coins on me at all times, which usually got used at vending machines or gacha machines. So fanny pack makes it nice carrying around the chain so you don't have it all in your pockets. Another thing I would recommend is having an Apple AirTag just for your luggage. This is a tip Keenan gave me a few years ago. He always puts an Apple AirTag in his luggage so that way if his bags do get lost, you can just pull it up, find out where they are. It's like, okay, I'm in Tokyo. My bag is in Seoul, Korea. So that way it helps the airline also locate your bag. So just kind of a cool travel tip, not just for Japan, but just any kind of traveling so you don't, permanently lose your luggage. And then lastly, I have some sort of like charging cable. Like I got this cool one and I'll have a link for it. It's multi-charge. It's got the C, it's got the lightning. It's also got the mini USB cable. It's just really nice and it connects to USB-A. I'm sure I got this a couple years ago. I'm sure there's now where it's C at the end, but it just makes life easier because then you can just plug it in here. If you got an Android device or newer Apple, you can use the C. If maybe one of your companions needs a lightning cable, you can charge more than one thing at a time using this kind of cable. So I really like this because I use it at home a lot. I have it plugged into my surge protector down below, and I'll charge various devices for the podcast and things like that. So having extra charging cables, especially a multiple one like that, definitely helps out and everything on your trip. Now, one thing when you're traveling to Japan, pretty much unless you're already in Asia, wherever you're traveling from, it's probably going to be at least a 9, 10, 13, 14, 15 hour flight. If you get a direct flight, you might have some layovers and stuff like that. So you definitely want some sort of entertainment. There is in-flight entertainment, like they'll have movies, things like that. And I don't think you have to rent a headset. At least you didn't. Any flight I've been on, I haven't had to rent a headset yet. In fact, for my last one, I actually got a free headset because I flew premium. So I'll be taking that with me on this trip. But, you might have a layover. You might not be flying direct, so you might have a long layover. So you want some sort of entertainment. So if you've got a Switch or a portable gaming PC, something like that, I would definitely recommend bringing that just for playing on the flight. You probably won't do it much when you're in Japan, unless you're up super early and can't get back to sleep. Then you're like, I got to kill some time before everything opens. So, you have that entertainment. Plus, you've got a mini PC like the Legion Go, like I have over here. You can download movies to it and watch them on that screen while you have your layover. Audiobooks, real books, kind of thing like that. Just some sort of entertainment for layovers and also on the flight because it is a long flight. I will say, though, for me, every time I've gone, all 3 trips, I've been so excited to go that the flight never felt that long to me. It only feels long going home because I'm like, I don't want to go home. I want to still be in Japan. So flying there has never felt that long to me because I'm just so excited. But yeah, there's definitely flight entertainment. And also depending on where you're flying from. So I'm flying from the East Coast. And generally speaking, the route from the East Coast, you go up over Canada, over Alaska, the western part of Canada, parts like that. And if you have a window seat or you're seated in a row by a window, take a look at the views out there. And I'll post them here as I'm talking. I saw some magnificent mountain ranges on the flights over. So definitely look out, and even when you're above the ocean, you're like, oh, there's not much to see. I mean, looking down at the ocean from that high up, if the clouds aren't in the way, really, really cool, really amazing to see. So take some time on your flight just to open your window up and peer out and look around. Just be like, oh man, this is amazing, because it is something. Like I'd never flown over I've flown over the Grand Canyon before. And I guess I've flown over the Rockies, but I didn't pay attention when I flew over the Rockies because the pilot didn't say so. My flight to California, like, oh, we're going over the Grand Canyon. I took a look at that, and that was cool. But man, flying over a mountain range, especially like the ones like by the Arctic Sea up in Alaska, it is amazing. And it's very breathtaking to see in person. Like as good as like my photo is of it, or maybe photos, I think I took multiple. Man, seeing it in person is great. So, if you're by a window, I would say definitely periodically just look out and see what you see. You're going to see some really cool stuff, especially when you start to come in to Japan. When you're flying over the island, you'll see rice paddies. You'll see a bunch of stuff that you may have never seen before, and seeing them from that high up is so, so cool. So definitely take advantage if you're by a window to, look at it. And then kind of other things, depending on what airline you're flying on. Like I like flying Air Nippon and Japan Air, because they do have a Japanese option for your food, and I generally pick that over the Western option. And it's really good for airline food, so don't sleep on that. As well as, free drinks. When you're doing international flights on most of these airlines, you'll get free adult beverages. So I would definitely, don't overdo it. I'm not saying get drunk. Don't overdo it, but take advantage of it. Have some sake. A lot of them will have a variety of sake. Try some out before you go. Have something to just have a drink or two just to relax, and it's a long flight. Just relax. Play your video games, watch your movies. Do some fun stuff. Take advantage of everything that the plane has to offer. I would say they will on the flight, because it's so long. They will try to acclimate you to the flight. They'll start dimming the lights. It's nighttime, when it's nighttime in Japan, just to try, and they'll serve you dinner and breakfast based on the local time as opposed to what time you're actually at, just to, try to get you used to it before you land. Again, this has never worked for me, but it especially doesn't work on the flight, because I am so excited to be there. or to go there that I can't even sleep. I think I'd have to do the math, like the 13-hour flights to Japan. I've maybe like in the 3 trips, so there and back, so 26 hours a piece, 52 plus 26, 78 hours of flying time that I've done to and from Japan, give or take. I've maybe slept for like 3 hours in those 3 trips because I'm so excited. Like I might doze off for a quick nap, but then I'm boom back up and excited. So take advantage of everything the airline has to offer when you're on the flight. Look out the windows, have a drink or two, eat your dinners. They're generally good. And if you're flying with kids on Japan Air and I think Air Nippon, I'm trying to remember if Air Nippon did it, but they usually give like a free toy to little kids. Like Sean, when he was little, went with me to Japan. We were on Japan Air. They gave him like a model to build of the airplane, which he had for the longest time and then broke it. And then Bowie got, I can't remember what Bowie got, but I think Bowie got almost like a Happy Meal thing, because I remember he got like a little, like almost like a stress ball Shinkansen. But yeah, they give little toys to little kids. So if you're flying with kids, that's pretty cool because it will keep them distracted. And I would say, and it does cost extra. So when I go by myself, I fly economy. I save money. I don't really care because both on Air Nippon and Japan Airlines, pretty spacious seats. Again, I'm 6'2". I find myself with enough room. But flying with my family last year, I definitely did premium economy for the extra room. And it's nicer for the kids because they can get up and move. Like Bowie was able to just like move around the seat. And we ended up having the front row of the section, so there weren't any seats in front of us, so we had a little extra room. Bowie definitely got up and moved around in our area and things like that. So if you can afford it, because it's an expensive trip as is, if you can afford it or if you have the miles to upgrade, I would definitely suggest maybe, premium economy if you're traveling with kids, because then it gives them the room, because they're going to be a little bit restless, because us adults, we can take that 13-hour flight kind of, but kids, it's going to be really hard for them. So that's kind of my recommendation on the actual flight to Japan. So here in this section, I'm going to talk about when you first arrive in Japan. Obviously, you're going to collect your baggage and you need to go through customs. One thing that's really nice about going to Japan is you can declare your customs before your trip electronically. I'll have a link again to that in the description below. So that way it gets you through faster, because then you have it declared, everything like that. You can scan, and generally you can make it right on through. Sometimes they'll still check your baggage going through that. But in my experience doing the online customs on the way or before even leaving for Japan, my family of 4, which boom, went right on through customs, didn't have to wait for nothing. It was actually really, really easy and great. So, because I know customs is a pain and it's just, you get in these long queues and things like that. But no, doing the electronics customs before you leave definitely makes it a lot easier. And even when they didn't have that on my first 2 trips to Japan, customs lines were still pretty breezy. Just, you get up there, they stamp it, they ask you why you're here. You're like, I'm here to have fun. Now just be like, hey, I'm here to see, sights and things like that. And they just send you on through. It's fairly a painless experience. And I've gone at busy times. Like I've gone during Golden Week and things like that. So even going at the busier times, it wasn't that hard. But, it times may vary, like depending on how many people are at the airport and things like that. So just, you got to go through customs. After you get through customs, you're going to want to pick up any SIM cards you may have pre-ordered, pocket Wi-Fis, or if you didn't reserve these, you can buy them there. Generally speaking, as soon as you get out of the customs area, you'll see a whole line of them, almost like a mall in a sense, of different places where you can exchange currency. Again, don't do it there. I'll tell you why in a second. But yeah, you can pick up pocket Wi-Fi, you can get SIM cards, and you can also book various things. You can book cars, you can rent cars, things like that. And again, they're just outside the custom area. They're really hard to miss. So you'll see all the big signs, and generally speaking, there's usually someone out there like trying to direct you towards them as well. So they are hard to miss kind of thing. Another thing you can do before you leave the airport, and this is something you can also reserve beforehand, is have your luggage delivered to your hotel. What these services do, and it varies depending on the distance, how much your luggage weighs, how many pieces of luggage you have, but these services will take your luggage, take your bags, and they will take them to your hotel, and they'll be waiting, depending on, the hotel. They might be waiting in your room, just outside your room, or at the hotel lobby. Again, it varies between services and between hotels. But you can have your stuff delivered, especially if you're going to want to do some sightseeing before you check in. Depending on when your flight gets in and how quickly it's going to take you to get to your hotel, you might not be able to check in yet. Your check-in might be 3 or 4 o'clock, and you arrive at noon. So you might not want to bring your 2 bags with you to a restaurant or any kind of sightseeing you might be doing beforehand. So having your luggage delivered ahead of time can be very convenient. I will say I have never done this on my trips because all of my flights have landed after, or I would be arriving at my hotel after check-in time. So I've always just, hopped the train, taken the car service, whichever my mode of transportation was for that particular trip, and gone straight to my hotel and not unpack, but unwind for a second, and then getting food and drink. But yeah, if you arrive there in the morning and you can't check in, this luggage service is definitely kind of a must to do, because then you don't have to worry about your luggage. You just take what you need, like your carry-on with you, your backpack, whatever you're using, and then you don't have to worry about taking suitcases to restaurants or stores or anything like that. It makes your life so much easier. So something I would recommend, depending on when you get there, or just out of convenience, so you don't have to take them on the subway or put them in a cab, or whatever your mode of transportation is from the airport to where you're staying. And that, my friends, is the segue into our next one, leaving the airport. I know of 5 definite ways to leave the airport, and there's a possible 6. The first way is obviously the transit system, the trains, the subway. Again, use Google Maps or the apps, the Navi apps, things like that, to find the train you need to get to your hotel or closest to your hotel. So that's really simple. I remember the very first trip we took, Keenan and I just looked at that transit map, and we're like, oh no. And we weren't using Google Maps because we didn't know we could use Google Maps at the time. And luckily for us, there was this angel of a woman who said, "Where are you going?" We showed her the address. She's like, "Oh, okay, follow me." She took us exactly where we need to be, exactly the train we need to be on. She said, "Get off at this stop and you'll be there." And we're like, "Thank you so much." And another thing about the hospitality and the politeness of the Japanese is, because we were going through different train stations, because again, there are different lines that are run by different companies, so you pay each time you go through. She just boom, boom, boom. And we didn't know that she was paying each time to go through, or I would have offered her, like, "Hey, no, let me cover that. You helped us out." And Keenan and I didn't realize that till later, because we thought she was going our way. And then she was like, "All right, guys, get on this train and get off at the stop. Bye." And she went right back through the turnstile. I was like, all right, she just spent a couple dollars helping us out, so that was sweet of her, which is another reason why she's an angel. But she took us right there to our subway. But if you're using Google Maps, really easy to do. I did that on my second trip, and that was in Narita, not Haneda, and got on my train, got to where I needed to be. So I would say if you are traveling in a small group or by yourself and not with children, I would definitely say subway's the easiest way to do it and the least expensive. Next up is renting a car. I have never done this. Like I kind of said earlier, I don't plan on doing it, especially like if I'm staying in Tokyo or Osaka. Those are very busy areas, and I do not want to drive in a foreign country in a busy area, because a long time ago, my dad, who was an international traveler for the Department of Defense, he always hired a car wherever he went, because he told me in some countries, if you cause a wreck or things like that, and they can really, really hammer you. I don't know if Japan does that at all, but I've always been paranoid of driving in foreign countries, so I'm like, I'll pass on that. Plus, with how bad traffic can be in Tokyo, unless you know where you're going, I wouldn't recommend driving there anyways. It's so much easier to use buses or the trains. But yeah, you can rent a car, and generally speaking, you'll rent the car at the desk and you'll hop a shuttle. They'll take you to where your car is. I do know that from, researching it. But again, not something I would necessarily recommend, but it is something you can do, especially if you plan on going out to the rural areas. It might be worth your money and time, because you don't have to worry about catching trains and then walking distances. You can just drive to where you need to be. So it is convenient if you're doing that. But if you plan on, just staying in Tokyo, or maybe catching the Shinkansen down to like Osaka or Kyoto or something like that, I would say don't bother don't bother renting a car. Just take the transit lines and things like that. Next up, you can rent like a car service to take you from the hotel, or I'm sorry, from the airport to your hotel. This is what I did on my last trip because I had my entire family with me. It just made life so much easier to do it. I rented it through a service called Klook, and you can do a bunch of other bookings of events and things like that in Japan through Klook. So I'll have a link to Klook down below too, so you can check them out and book various different reservations, including a car service to take you to a hotel. This was pretty straightforward and easy once we found the car. Kind of a funny story about renting this car. So the gentleman who was driving the van that we rented was on the other end of the airport, and he wasn't where we thought he was going to be because when you rent this service, you give them your arrival time, your flight number, and everything like that, and the gate, so that the car should be right outside. Like as soon as you go through the doors, your car should be there. Our car was not, and trying to find him was kind of a pain because he didn't. Not only did he not speak English, but also he didn't really speak Japanese. He was a Vietnamese driver, and I know he didn't speak Japanese because my good friend Naoki-san, just the kind-hearted man that he is, met us at the airport and just to greet us and everything like that. And I didn't know he was going to do that initially because he probably would have given us a ride had I known he was going to do this. But yeah, when we were trying to find the car and I called the car guy and he barely spoke English, and Naoki was like, let me talk to him, and started speaking Japanese, and he didn't really understand Japanese either. But we did find our car, and once we found the car, it was just a straight shot, easy way to get to the hotel. And even with the kind of misunderstanding, miscommunication, traveling with a teenager and a toddler and a wife, I still say it was probably easier than trying to get everybody on the right subway car and round everybody up like that. So renting one of these cars, and you can request a car seat. So if you're traveling with little ones, you can request a car seat for these. So again, definitely something easy to do. Next up would be a taxi. The taxis in Japan are super nice. They're also super expensive, which is why I would not recommend doing it. I've never actually taken a taxi in Japan just because everyone I know who has been to Japan before me or lives in Japan says you're better off subway, bus, what have you, because the taxi services are very expensive and not worth the money. So I would say taxi would be your last resort for leaving the airport to get to your hotel. But odds are the bus or the trains will get you to where you need to go. So you definitely don't need to do a taxi. And speaking of buses, you have buses. You can hop on one of the bus lines and they'll have a stop probably near where you need to be. They run a lot less frequent than the trains, which is why I would suggest the trains, and they're about the same money. So I would say take the train over the bus. And then the possible sixth way to get from the airport to your hotel would be if your hotel has a shuttle. Now, as far as Haneda goes, no hotel I was looking at, I could find one that offered a shuttle. So I don't know if it's something from Haneda to Tokyo kind of thing. So I can't speak for other airports for the most part, except for Narita, and I'll get to that in a second. So I don't know if that will be an option for you if you fly into Haneda. I would definitely check with your hotel first. They might actually offer the service, and it might not be listed on the webpage. So definitely check first, but I have not seen it for Haneda in Tokyo. The only shuttle I have seen is when I flew from out of Narita, because we stayed in Narita. Our hotel did have a shuttle bus to the airport. So again, mileage may vary. When I was trying to book hotels in Tokyo, when I flew into Haneda, both times that I flew into Haneda, I could not find one that offered the service. So I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it is something that I was not able to find on my own. And of course, it was almost 2 years ago the last time I went, so it very well could be offered now. So again, when you're booking your hotels, just check to see if that service is offered. All right, and lastly for this tips and tricks video, and again, there'll be more videos in this series covering like fun stuff to do in like Tokyo and Kyoto and Yokohama and Narita, things like that. I will be doing other videos, but this is the last part of this first before you go video and when you first get there video. Money. Japan, a lot of people think of Japan as a cash-based country, and on my first trip it was kind of like that. A lot of places I went, even like bigger places, only took cash. So I was getting cash out almost daily to pay for things, kind of thing like that. Now, some of your bigger places like your Bic cameras and Yodobashi cameras, they will take credit cards and debit cards. Same with like McDonald's and fast food places, but a lot of restaurants and bars when I went there did not, so I needed yen. Originally, when I first went, I forgot to get yen before I left the U.S., but I had a layover in Canada, and I did my exchange in Canada, and that was not a very good exchange. I shouldn't have done that. Should have waited till I got to Japan. So obtaining yen, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can do it at the airport in Tokyo, in Haneda and Narita. There will be like kind of banks that you can just exchange your cash for, and they'll give it to you. Better rate than I got in Canada when I did that one time. There'll also be exchange machines where you just put your bills in, and it will give you yen out. They also have these exchange machines in a lot of hotels. My last trip when I was in Ginza, my hotel did not have one of these, but there was a hotel like half a block away, and it was in the lobby, and I could just come and go as I pleased, basically, to exchange my cash, because I did have a bunch of U.S. cash on me that I exchanged for yen when I got there. So using these machines, you'll generally get a favorable exchange rate, but that's only if you have cash on you when you go. The main way I recommend to get yen when you're there is 7-Eleven. And I know what you might be thinking if you've never been to Japan before, 7-Eleven. First and foremost, the 7-Elevens in Japan are way different what they have in the what we have in the U.S. They're way nicer. They've got better food. They've got better drinks, and they're much larger too. But they do have these cash. They have the ATMs there that accept American debit cards, and probably British and Australian and European debit cards too. I don't want to say they necessarily do because I don't have that experience, but I'm fairly certain because it kind of became force of habit to me the last 3 trips. Like, oh, I know exactly what to do here. But I'm like 99% sure you can, use your European and Canadian and Australian credit cards there too. I would be shocked if you couldn't. But, you put it in there and you get very favorable exchange rate, and, you get your yen out that way. And I was just only doing this if you need yen, because one thing I did learn on my last 2 trips there, when you are at places that accept credit cards, you get a more favorable exchange rate, and it's real time too. So if the yen is dipped a few cents that day, boom, you get it instantly with your credit card, as opposed to if you got cash out earlier in the day, you got that exchange rate that the machine had that morning. So you could save yourself, some money doing it that way. So that's the reason why I would say, unless you need cash, I wouldn't get it out right away, because there's 7-Elevens everywhere. If you're out and about and you find that you need, if the restaurant you want to go to or the bar you want to go to does not take a credit card, I can guarantee you there will be a 7-Eleven within a block of wherever you are, especially if you're in Tokyo. So don't feel the need to get cash out every morning. I would say only get it when you need it, because again, you're going to save some money if you're using your credit card. Plus, if you got a points card, you get points too. And just make sure you pay that off. You don't just do a lot of debt, because what I do is I have a Chase Sapphire card that gets me a ton of points. I will use that when I can in Japan, and I will usually go on, because it usually updates in real time. I will go on there and I will the day is like, all right, spend $150, boom, pay that $150 that way. Oh, thumbs up. That way I don't accrue a bunch of debt while I'm gone, kind of thing like that. So I definitely recommend doing that if you're responsible with credit cards. If you're not responsible with credit cards, then probably take the cash out, so you have that physical money that you see that you're losing whenever you spend it, kind of thing like that. And also, when it comes to your debit card and your credit card, make sure you let your bank know before you leave. Usually you can just do it on the app. You can just schedule the times that you're going to be in a foreign country. I did on my first trip, I did that, but Bank of America, for whatever reason, didn't notice or something like that. And it was like halfway through my trip, I get a call in the middle of the night from the bank, like, hey, we've noticed a bunch of charges in Tokyo and Kyoto. This is you, right? I was like, yeah, that's me. And then the guy was like, oh, I see where you put you were going to be in Japan for this period of time. I'm sorry. And that was that. It was really easy to take care of. But yeah, most credit cards and banks will, through the app, you can set that you're going to be in a foreign country. And so that way you don't have to worry about your purchases being declined. But one thing I will say about debit cards in Japan, there were times there, like certain stores, for whatever reason, my debit card would not work. Yodobashi camera was one of them. Tried using my debit card twice and it didn't go through. So got the credit card out, paid. It was just fine. So I would definitely say if you're responsible with a credit card and you're paying with plastic instead of having the cash on you, maybe use the credit card so you don't avoid an embarrassing card decline thing. Because there was money on it, don't worry. But it was one of those things where just for whatever reason the debit card was not accepted there as opposed to a credit card went right through. So just kind of things to like know before you go, things like that. And that will be the conclusion of this one, part one. Like I said, it's a little know before you go kind of thing like that. Part two, I'm going to cover, some tips and tricks when you're in Tokyo. Talk about Shinjuku, Shibuya, Ginza, Akihabara. I know a lot of my video game people here really want to hear about Akihabara. So we'll talk about those. We'll talk about vending machines. We'll talk about convenience stores and just kind of ways to go about Japan to try to get the most out of your experience. Because I'm not someone who lives in Japan. I'm someone who likes to go there every few years. So I can definitely give you, you can learn from my mistakes, from things I didn't realize before I went, and now I know better. So that's what I'm trying to do with this video series. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. There will be more. So if you want to hit that notification bell so you know when these tip videos come out. I'm going to try to do them once a week. I will definitely have them all out before I go to Japan in March. And that way, and then when I come back, I can do some videos about Kyoto and Osaka and Kobe and Nara, and you guys can see some cool film footage and stuff like that. And I'm definitely going to do some IRL streamings while I'm out there. So make sure you're subscribed so you can see some of the fun times Keenan and I are going to have out there. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care now. Bye.